This is LING 270, Language, Technology, and Society. I will be the instructor for this module. My name is Brennan Dell. So this is module 3 on decipherment. So you may have noticed with a lot of the writing systems that we covered in module 2 that a lot of them are actually ancient scripts which are no longer used today, but nonetheless we still are able to read them. Now, how is it that we are able to read these writing systems when the knowledge of how these symbols represent language has been lost? Well, the answer is that these systems' knowledge has been rediscovered, and it has been rediscovered through the process of decipherment. So decipherment, to define our terms, refers to the process of discovering the meaning of a text written in an obscure language or script. So we're able to find out what the meaning of these texts are and how that writing system actually worked. So in this module, we'll look into how this kind of process is actually possible. So decipherers use scientific methods to learn about a writing system in order to find out what it represents and how it represents language information. The way they do this is to use the knowledge that writing systems are used to represent language-specific information. And that means that writing system that constrains the kind of properties that a writing system can actually have. So in this module, we'll see the ways that linguistic properties of language can help us make a successful decipherment. So by the end of this module, you should be able to understand how linguistic knowledge can be used to decipher a writing system. You should be able to define the properties of a true decipherment, because it is possible to make something that seems like a decipherment but actually is incorrect. I'll give some examples of what that looks like, and the word we use for this is a pseudo-decipherment. And finally, you should be able to provide examples of how various ancient writing systems have been deciphered. So we'll be covering those in this module. So our module will start by looking at examples of writing systems which have been deciphered over the years. So we'll look at these various systems and try to figure out, look at all these examples, and then from them try to find out what they all kind of have in common. So to start off, we'll talk about how cryptograms, which really, they're not really a writing system, but the way that you solve a cryptogram puzzle is actually very similar to the way that decipherment occurs. So I think this shows a really interesting and useful example. We'll also talk about the decipherment of Old Persian, Egyptian hieroglyphs, Babylonian cuneiform, and linear B. We'll also cover the scripts which have not been deciphered yet for various reasons, and we'll talk about what properties these scripts have that make them very difficult or impossible to decipher. And we'll conclude by reviewing which kind of properties made it possible to decipher these scripts or made it impossible. So we'll define the properties of what makes a true decipherment. So we'll talk about what the prerequisites are for decipherment, what kind of things have to be true for us to be able to decipher something correctly. We'll learn how decipherment can get started. And finally, we'll learn how we can verify that a decipherment is in fact the true decipherment. And largely this is through the process of independent verification. So these are the topics that we'll be covering in the next few videos of this module.